All right, I know you guys are probably a little sad right now, a little depressed. I'm sure you heard the news, and it's got me down a bit. You do know what I'm talking about? What happened on Friday?
No.
What happened?
Head honcho got kidnapped.
Exactly. Head of honcho got kidnapped. So I know we're probably all a little sad, a little depressed right now. So let's just go ahead and have a moment of silence for our beloved principal, head of honcho. Okay? Just a little respect, please. No crying. Don't cry.
Recent information has come to our attention regarding a crime committed at McGee Middle School in Tucson, Arizona. This woman, Mrs. Hedda Honcho, love principal at McGee, has been kidnapped. As a member of the National Evidence and Research Detective Service, you are requested to aid local, state, and federal law enforcement in solving this crime. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to bring these kidnappers to justice and to see to the safe return of Hedda Honcho. Our sources indicate this crime may have been committed by a member of the faculty or staff. After preliminary investigations, we have narrowed the suspect list to the following.
Ida Mae Adunnit, a.k.a. Major Adunnit and Top Gun, science teacher, McGee Middle School. Edward Honcho III, a.k.a. Eddie Honcho, Ed Honcho, Trey Honcho, and Poncho Honcho, freelance artist. Johnny B. Good, a.k.a. John Good, Jumpin' John Flash, and Bo Diddley, band teacher, McGee Middle School. Ima Goodfiler, no known alias, office manager at McGee Middle School. Shiza Kissup, no known alias, math teacher, McGee Middle School. Catherine Litter, a.k.a. Kitty Litter and Katie Litter, language arts teacher at McGee Middle School. Amelda Marcos Moody, a.k.a. I Am Moody, counselor, McGee Middle School. Edward Mop, a.k.a. Dusty Mop, head custodian at McGee Middle School. Florence Nightingale, a.k.a. Flo Nightingale, school nurse, McGee Middle School, part-time pharmacist, Galaxy Drug Company. William Binbad, a.k.a. Billy Binbad and Bugsy Binbad, businessman and entrepreneur. Mary Binbad, no known alias, Quickmart clerk. Adonis Sternman, a.k.a. Donnie Sternman and Don Sternman, assistant principal at McKee Middle School.
Honored.
Adopt.
Let's go ahead and swear you in. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
To execute my duties as a nerd.
to execute my duties as a nerd
To the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
All right, have a seat. So you now are all officially nerds, which are National Evidence and Research Detective Service agents. Okay, that's what you guys are. Okay, I'm glad I got you guys pumped up. That was the whole point of that video. As you might have imagined, I've spent a lot of time putting this together. This is how I spend my summers, lighting Canon fuse in my garage and videotaping it. This took me 4 years with another science teacher off and on, and a good chunk of a couple summers to put this together. This is not a simple mystery. I overheard someone say, "Oh, I've done this before." No, you haven't. This is mine and mine alone, and I don't give it out to other people to do because I put so much work into it. And I hope that you'll appreciate the complexity of it and recognize that this isn't a mystery that you're going to solve on the first day. Overheard Matt or somebody back there say, "Oh, I know who did it. It was him." Okay? Just so you realize, everybody that's a character, that's a suspect, they were all faculty or staff, administrators, assistant principals, teachers, and others here at the time that I put this together about 7 years ago. Okay? So just because you recognize some as teachers and others that aren't currently teachers here does not mean that they are or are not suspects. Just because your brother or sister did this 5, 6 years ago does not mean the outcome is the same. The way it's set up, I can change who did it from year to year, and I do. Devin?
Driving in this video?
No.
Yeah.
So, what I want you to understand is, we talked a little bit about this yesterday with forensic analysis, is that if you have your mind made up that Mr. Sanchez did it, okay, you just think that that's the way it's going to turn out, you will find evidence to support your theory. And then you'll ignore the other stuff that point at Mrs. Blake or whoever, whatever characters there are, okay? So you have to keep an open mind. You will not know who did this on day 2, day 30, day 35. It'll be right down to the very end of this unit. After you get all the evidence, then that will paint a picture. The name of this unit is forensic science. And when you go to Saguaro, if you go there, or Sabino, you might be on the forensics team. And it'll have nothing to do with crimes, okay? Forensics, the word means having to do with a court of law or debate, public debate. You're on the debate team when you're on the forensics team, okay? You're debating. But when we say forensic science, what we're referring to is all the science that you would do, experiments, testing, powders and fingerprints and shoe prints and tire tracks, all the science that you would do and you would use in a court to prove someone's guilty or innocent. Get it? So that's why it's called forensic science, because it has to do with public debate, or it's used in a courtroom. In a courtroom, we debate, we argue. You're for the prosecution, you're for the defense. You try to prove that I did it, you try to prove that I didn't do it, or at least give the jury reasonable doubt. Okay? And you're debating, you're arguing. Get it? So that's why it's called forensic science. You're debating. All right, so the way I put this together is you guys are going to work in teams. And the first couple of days, we're going to kind of work together to get the hang of this and to learn how a detective thinks. Head up. After that, it's a competition. And each team may come up with a different conclusion at the end about who did it. You're not going to want to reveal what you discover. There are so many possible clues in this, guys. And I have clues that have yet to be discovered by any student over the 6 years that I've done this. You're the 7th year, okay? So keep your eyes open. And remember, if you discover an important clue, don't tell the other groups. Our groups are very similar, if not identical, to the fraud dissection groups, and I'll tell you what they are here in a little bit. But before I send you to your station to begin work on this, I need to explain the ground rules and how I've structured this to try to make it as fair as possible. Frankly, I hate group work. I really do. And you guys have a whole quarter of it. And so I tried to structure it in such a way that it would be as fair as possible. I don't like group work because I'm usually the one that works hard and somebody else slacks off and they get credit for my hard work. I don't like that, okay? Or I also don't like it because someone else in my group is screwing around and that affects my grade. I've tried to structure this so that doesn't happen. But some of the responsibility is on you, okay? When you're working in your teams, if a group member is interfering with your group or they are not contributing at all, I expect everyone to be actively participating every day. This is not active participation. Reading the documents, helping conduct the labs, that's active participation. If you are not actively participating or you're interfering with the group, I'll probably notice it. But if I don't, you need to tell me that person is not doing it. Okay? And I'm catching this on the podcast right now so that at the end of this, you're not going to come back to me and your parents aren't going to come back to me and say, the only reason I got an F is because so-and-so kept screwing up our labs. You can do this stuff individually, and much of it you will do individually. But ideally, everyone in your group will work together and we won't have any problems. But let's say somebody does. Somebody screws up, they talk a lot, they're not really helping out, they're causing more trouble than good. If I notice that after you point it out to me, I will pull them off the lab. They will do a written assignment. This is a forensics case. They'll read this story and then they'll answer the 10 questions. They must get 100% before they're allowed to return to their group. That may take a day, it may take 3 weeks for some people that are stubborn and don't actually want to read. Right? During that time, you're not involved in the lab. You're going to have to catch up on everything you missed when you return to the lab. The assignments that you're going to do from here on out, I can tell you exactly what they are. In your group, you'll do 3 or 4 individual assignments. You'll have 1 group assignment, okay? That's the only group assignment that you are graded as a group on. 3 or 4 individual assignments. About halfway through the mystery, you'll have 2 homework assignments that involve fingerprinting that you do individually. At the end of the mystery, you'll have 3 assignments. You'll have a written summary, a PowerPoint presentation you'll do your part of, and a test. And here's what happens. People get a little overwhelmed. This is a lot to keep straight in your head. 12 suspects, that's a lot, okay? And you might feel a little overwhelmed at the beginning, and you got some smart people in your group, so you just say, oh, I'll just let them do it, and you zone out. And you might skate by with the help of others for 3, 4 weeks, a month, and you get down towards the end where we have those 3 big assignments, the written summary and the PowerPoint and the test. And suddenly your grade goes from a C to an F because you have no clue what's going on. You tuned out. If you get a little confused, you get a little overwhelmed at times, don't tune out from that point on because there's no way you're going to recover. You have to know what happened, in this case, yourself, individually. To make this fair, what we're going to do here next, when I send you to your station, one of you will come up here and pull out your case file. This is where you're going to keep all the clues, all the documents, all the evidence, okay? This is confidential. You don't want to take this out of the room because what happens if you're absent the next day? Your group may need that paper to solve something, okay? So it has to stay in here. And you don't want to share it with other groups because you may have discovered a clue that they didn't. I already mentioned that. But you're going to put your name and the names of everyone in your group here on these 4 lines, these numbered lines. Then you'll fill in your number next to the assignments. If there are 4 people in your group, which most of you have, each person will be responsible for 3 assignments. You're going to put your number next to that assignment. Okay? Best way, fairest way to do this is to, I sign up for one, give it to the next person, they sign up for one, next person, and it comes back to me. Get it? So you all get to have your turn choosing an assignment. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You've got to try to figure it out from what it says there. But you sign up for your 3 different assignments. Head up to that. If you know you're going to be gone, here's the calendar for November and December. All of these assignments are highlighted. If If you see the assignment there for the day you know you're going to be gone, don't sign up for that one. Get it? Only sign up for the stuff you know you're going to be here for, in case you're going to take a trip, which hopefully you won't. Once you sign up for everything, there'll be a leftover one. That leftover one you put an A next to, indicating the entire group is responsible for. All of you are going to get the grade. Okay? And let me explain how the grading works then on those 3 assignments. Let's say Zach signed up for ink analysis. Okay? And he's got a great group. They work together, they cooperate all the time. Well, that's great. You could be the boss of that lab. You could say, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, I want you to do this. However you want to do it. Maybe your handwriting's awful, Zach, and so you have, Taylor's going to do the writing for you. You won't write anything out. That's fine, okay? But your name goes on the top, you're getting the credit for it. Got it? On the other hand, let's say your group is lousy. People don't work together well, you don't trust this person to do this part of the lab, so you're going to do it all yourself. It's fine. It's your lab, you get to choose. Okay? But don't come back later and say, so-and-so, Taylor screwed it up. Taylor forgot to put the period at the end of every sentence, and that's why you got it wrong. It's too late. You made the choice. If you want her to write on the paper, that's fine. Ideally, guys, what I'm hoping is that everyone will share all the assignments. But you're signed up for 3 or 4 if you've got 3 people at your station. And that's the grade you're going to get. Got it? So that's how I'm trying to keep this fair. There's only one group assignment that you actually do all share the grade on. And if someone's interfering at that time, you're going to let me know so I can take them out. Any questions on how you're going to be graded on this? You need to be actively involved the entire time. If I see that you're interfering, I'll pull you off to do the written assignment. So what I want you to do here next, again, just to repeat, you're going to go to your lab station. Okay? Someone's going to come over here and pick up your case file out of the hanging folder here. There's a folder for each class that I have. Yours is red here. So make sure when you put it back at the end of the period, put it in the red slot. Go to your station, put everyone's name down. If Sky is in your group, make sure her name is added. Leave the absent people down. Use your numbers to sign up for the different assignments. There are 4 people in your group. Each person signs up for 3. There are 3 people each sign up for 4. The leftover one you mark with a A. Got it? 3. You should have all signed up. You should have 3 or 4. Everyone should have an equal number, and the remaining one is marked with an A. We're going to get our first document, okay? Our first piece of evidence. You're going to have a bunch in there. You're going to have maybe 30 different sheets, actually more than that, when everything's said and done. And that's a lot of information to keep track of. And so what we're going to do is use a little strategy that a detective might use. You've seen this on detective shows. They go out to the scene of the crime, and they interview people, they take out a little notepad. Okay? Now, even though the actual information may be over here on a piece of paper, it could be an interview that's recorded on tape over here, they're going to have a little notepad where they keep track of everything. Or maybe back at the station, they'll have a big board with suspect pictures and different pieces of evidence and maybe strings connecting them. What they're trying to do is organize all this information so they can get a picture, because it's too much to keep track of in words. If I say all the clues are in these 30 pages, these 30 papers, you guys would give up. I know I would. That's too much for me to keep straight in my head. So the reason, hold on, the reason I gave you 4 sheets of paper was not one for each person. Was to have one place where the whole group keeps their clues. So give those 4 pieces of paper to one person in your group that will be the secretary, has decent handwriting to jot the clues down. Sedona. I'll have to tell you about that later. No, wasting time right now, guys. Okay? So don't ask what the MMO table is. All this will be explained later. I just want you to sign up for it based on what you already know. Okay? Alright, if you didn't finish signing up, you'll have to do that on your own, but there should be a number next to all of those. And everyone has an equal number. Now the first thing, we're kind of working through this together because I'm going to help you figure out a way to go through the case. So once you figure that out, then you'll be working on your own a lot. And I won't be talking nearly as much, thank goodness. This first piece of paper is blue. There's a reason for that. Whenever you get a paper that's in blue, that means it came from the police, or men in blue, okay? And you need to consider the source of the information. Head up, Matt. The source of the information. If it comes from the police, if it's a police document, is that fairly trustworthy? Yes. You're going to get some papers that are yellow. They are suspect interviews. Can you trust everything a suspect says? No. You're going to get a newspaper to read. Can you trust that?
No.
Some things might be helpful, some things could be misleading, some could be outright wrong. Just because it's printed in the newspaper doesn't mean it's 100% trustworthy. So consider the source. But what you should be doing when you get new clues is if it fits into the crime and you think it's going to be helpful in solving the crime, you write it on that paper. And you keep those confidential, because remember, this is a contest. We're not all going to agree on who did this at the end. And you're going to have the clue to back it up. That way, when we get to the end of this and you do the written summary or the PowerPoint, you'll have 4 pages that have everything you need on it. And you'll look at those 4 pages instead of having to have, 40 pages to go through. Get it? And what will happen after you read a document, you'll go on, you'll read other things, and then you'll go back and read stuff that you already looked at before. Because you learned something new now. Maybe you'll find a new clue in this that you didn't find before. Your challenge now is to read this as a group. Don't read it silently, out loud. I don't care if the same person reads all 4 paragraphs or if you take turns. Doesn't matter to me. But read it out loud to your group, and then as a group decide what you think are important clues and start to write those down on your 4 sheets of notebook paper. Okay? You may need more when it's all said and done, but 4 is a good place to start. So 1 person from each station. I know some of you are not done reading. Excuse me, I need to interrupt you now. We're going to do a little exercise together, Jeff. I don't want to rush you guys through this. You can go back and get clues from this at any point in the mystery. And as I mentioned before, that's probably a good idea, Nathan. It's probably a good idea for you to do that because as you learn new stuff, you're going to look at this in a different way. But there is an exercise that you should start doing now that detectives would do. When you take this to trial, you go into a courtroom and you have to convince a jury that this person did it. They're going to look for certain things. We're going to talk about the MMO here in a little bit. But in addition to that, they're going to want to see a timeline. A timeline tells you who was where at what time. And it tells you whether or not the person had an opportunity to commit the crime. An opportunity is one of 3 crucial things that you must prove. You're making a case that someone did it, okay? And that's what you're going to write up in your final written summary and what you're going to present in your PowerPoint. And in that presentation, one of the things you're going to talk about is opportunity. Opportunity is the chance to commit the crime. If the person is not there, they can't do the crime. I can't be, brought up on charges of murder for someone in France right now because I'm not physically there. It wouldn't be possible. Get it? So the timeline will help reveal that. And it also takes stuff from being just words on a page to now a picture, which our brain likes much better. Here's how I would suggest you set up your timeline. So whoever is your secretary right now should, maybe on a whole new piece of paper, turn the paper sideways, draw a long line on one end 4, near the other end 9, goes a little bit past 9, actually goes to 9:30, and then separate it up by hours, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. The dots indicate, head up, the dots indicate events, things that took place at that time. And we'll go ahead and fill this in as a group right now, so at least we have a starting point. But you will go back to this later, and you'll look at it, and you'll add events in, and it will help reveal who had the opportunity. Where were they at certain times? Got it? So, each of the dots represent an event. Okay? On this next slide, we're going to go ahead and fill these in with your help. At 4 o'clock, what event took place at 4 o'clock? Okay, and where was Honcho?
Working in the office.
There you go. So good filer, the, what's her job? Secretary, she left at that time. And HH, as I'll often abbreviate it, head of honcho, was working in her office. It's important that we know where the victim was and where the suspects were at different points in time. As you learn more, you'll add more to your timeline. The next piece is actually a time frame. What was supposed to be taking place between 4:30 and 5:30? Meetings, appointments. HH, head of honcho, had appointments between 4:30 and 5:30. In fact, at some point, you'll get to see that appointment book, which might be helpful. At 5 o'clock, what typical event takes place there? Usually that's when head of honcho gets home. Now, we wouldn't expect her to be home at 5 on this particular day because she had appointments until 5:30. Or at least that's what somebody told us. Remember, who tells you this stuff too is important. At 7 o'clock, what event takes place at 7? Let's get someone else out there. I know some of you didn't even finish reading this. Yes? Bianca? Her TV show. HH's favorite show, Titan, starts at 7 o'clock. Okay? It's good to know people's habits. If she's always home at 7 o'clock to see that show, the fact that she wasn't home might be suspicious. And that might be what raised the suspicion for her husband, what's his name? Edward Honcho. So around this time, the 7:45, 8 o'clock time, there were a bunch of phone calls made by Edward Honcho. 4 to be specific. Can anyone name those 4? Yes.
He called his wife's office, the secretary's office, and the secretary at her house, and the
There you go. Those are the 4 things. So it would make sense. He's trying to find where his wife is. So he calls his wife, calls the secretary. She's not there. She left, remember, at 4? So he tries her in the secretary's not there. Secretary has a separate phone from the principal. Tries her at home. And Goodfiler says, what?
that she left at 4.
That she, Goodfiler, left at 4 and that head honcho was working in her office and had appointments. And then he tries head honcho in her office, and what happens then? Phone's busy. We got some people that are sharp on this. Some others are still kind of overwhelmed by this. Yeah, the phone was busy. Could be an important clue. At that point, then he calls the police, 911. So these are the events that take place at 7:45 and 8 o'clock. Edward Honcho calls Goodfiler at the office, gets no answer. He calls head of honcho in her office, gets a busy signal. Edward Honcho calls Goodfiler at home, and she's the one that told him, you know, where she was earlier. And he calls 911 when he can't get a hold of his wife. Seems a little extreme to me, but at 8:05, what event takes place here? Bianca.
Officers were at the school.
Yeah. So these are the beat officers, you know, the ones in uniform. They show up, they tap on the window with their nightstick. Who answers the door? Dusty Mop, the janitor, lets them in. And their job is to pretty much secure the crime scene, to make sure none of the physical evidence gets destroyed. At 9 o'clock, who arrives? The detective, Sam Snoop, arrives at 9. And at 9:30, who arrives? Yes?
The police, crime lab and forensics team.
That's the CSI team. That's you guys, the ones evaluating the physical evidence. The forensic team arrives at 9:30. So now you've got some events. Again, you can go back in and fill in more along the way. I'm going to leave this up here for a while so you can finish copying it down. But I have another piece of paper that you're going to need to look at now. We're going to start this activity. This is a thinking activity that gets you thinking like a detective. This is the MMO report. This is not the MMO table which you signed up for. Some of you signed up for. There's 2 things there. So this is the MMO report. And basically what this does is if you're a detective and you're coming to the scene of the crime, you need to start thinking like a criminal. Because when you show up at that scene, there's going to be all sorts of things. Could be evidence, maybe isn't. Okay? Oh, I see a pin. That pin is evidence. It could be used to threaten the victim. Come with me, head of honcho, or I'll poke your eyes out with a pin. Not very reasonable, right? So I'm probably not going to consider that suspicious. But if I see a bunch of rope over here in the corner, rope, could that be used in a kidnapping? Yes. So I'm going to consider that potentially important stuff. So this gets you to think now like the kidnapper. You're looking for three things. The three things are means, motive, and opportunity. Let me explain each. What I'm doing for you now, guys, is explaining this first paragraph. So when you get this, all you'll have to do is read the second paragraph and go ahead and start work on it. Means refers to the skill, ability, or equipment that you would need to kidnap. So you're going to start thinking, if you're heading out for a lovely day of kidnapping, what are you going to pack? Okay? What materials would you need? This isn't a murder. This isn't a bank robbery. If it was, I'd pack different stuff. Get it? This is a kidnapping. So consider what things you would need to take. Okay? Not only that, not only would you need certain equipment to do a kidnapping, but it might be helpful to have certain abilities, skills. If I'm big and imposing and scary, that might help me in certain situations in a kidnapping. Head up. If it's a bank robbery and they cracked a safe, they broke into a safe, you might need skills with cracking a safe or with explosives. Those are examples of means. So for means, once again, it's skill or ability and equipment. And you're going to make a long list of those things that you think might be useful in a kidnapping. That way, head up. That way, when you go to the scene of the crime, you know what to look for. I see a roll of duct tape over there. That could be an important clue. How many think they understand what I just described? Okay, good. So a lot of people don't get this. Motive. Motive is the reason for committing the crime. Now, a lot of crimes have the same motive behind it. Money is a big motive, right? But a kidnapping, there might be other reasons. Someone might kidnap a principal of a middle school. Head up, TJ. So you start to brainstorm in your group of reasons why they would commit the crime. That's what I mean by motive. And come up with a bunch of them so that when you start to interview suspects, you go, that person sounds a little suspicious. They need some extra money. That's a motive for them to commit the crime. Opportunity on the back is the chance to commit the crime. Or another way of describing it is not just the when and the where, but the how. Like if I'm going to kidnap someone, am I going to do it in broad daylight when everyone's around? Am I going to choose a time when they're walking to their car, before school, after school? What's the scenario look like? Okay? Not just the time, but the whole situation. When would be the best chance to commit the crime? What would it look like? What would you be doing? What would they be doing? Get it? That's what you're going to describe for opportunity. Any questions on that? When you convict someone of a crime, you have to present all three of those to a jury. Means, motive, and opportunity. So let's just say that I have this person, they're laying on the ground, and they've got a big old bloody knife stuck in their back, way up here on their back, okay? And there's a blood trail, and I follow it, and eventually leads me to this person with blood all over their hands, the victim's blood, just sitting there smiling. Pretty good case?
Yeah.
Guilty?
Yeah.
Okay, before we convict, we have to prove means, motive, and opportunity. We look into it a little bit further, and we find out that those two people were best buddies. They didn't have any reason to dislike each other. The person that was being charged with the crime, sitting there with the blood all over them, they were rich. The other person was poor. Okay? So why would they kill him for their money? They don't have a motive. There's no good reason that we can find out yet. Okay? And then we look at things like means, abilities, and we find out that the reason a person's sitting in the chair is it's a wheelchair. They're a quadriplegic. They have no use of their hands or their feet. So how is it possible they stab someone high in the back with a knife when they can't even stand and walk? See what I mean? No means, no ability. If the person was shot with a gun, does that person own a gun? Do they have access to a gun? If they don't have the means. And finally, if they're in a whole different country when the crime was committed, they didn't have the opportunity. They have an alibi. If someone says they were with me at this time, they don't have the opportunity. So that's what you're doing on this worksheet. Brainstorming for this crime, a kidnapping, means, motive, and opportunity that the person would need to have. Do not name names. Don't say, Dusty Mop did this, or She's a Kiss-Up did this, because you don't know anything about them yet. Speak in general terms. A custodian would have a good opportunity because they're there at all hours, as an example. Get it? So read this second part here before you jump into it. Come and get the because they're there at